you can do it, because I've done things I never thought I could. And I'm proud of that. And I'm proud to say I'm proud of that, because I'm proud of myself. And I have a lot of inspirational people around me, and they're doing amazing things. And that makes me want to keep going as well. But just don't ever stop trying, just show the world that, we can do anything. You might think we can't, but guess what? We can. So, yeah.
Well, that was an absolutely magnificent monologue, for someone who, at first, when I was talking to you on Messenger, before we even agreed to record today, I got the impression that you were a little shy, a little nervous about coming to this podcast. But you should get into podcasting, because that was a perfect monologue. When I hear a perfect monologue, I tell you that monologue was perfect.
Thank you.
So welcome, so good. Yeah. Here, take a breath, take a sip of water, take a sip of beer, whatever you have there. Let me. And we haven't even gotten to the commercial. Let me just talk for a few minutes. So, yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I have learned, as a blind podcaster myself, I have learned that there is an immense contrast, totally universal contrast, between people who are born blind, right? Now, listener, you at home who's been following this show for over a year now, you know me, you know that I was born blind, but of course I have to tell Jenny, she doesn't know. So I was born blind with glaucoma. I was born in 91, cataracts in my eyes, and I had 7 corneal transplants. So, yeah, it was done in the 90s. First of all, just out of curiosity, did you, I know that Australia is a wonderful place, but did you come to the States for treatment?
No, I had amazing.
That is fine. Sure. Of course. Totally fine. So, I mean, basically my story is that, yeah, I was born blind myself. So the first issue that I want to address is this issue of sadness. Well, from the bottom of my heart, and philosophically speaking, I don't understand that. I philosophically do not understand that sadness, because if you're born blind, that's life. I could tell you, I could tell you, well, it's quite complicated. It's not simple at all. I could tell you, Jenny, I know what it's like to be blind in your position, but I would be lying. I would be a liar, because I don't know. I cannot comprehend what it must be like to be a functioning adult, or even really a child, and then have to go through all that when you're much older. Basically, what I have told other people, and I was speaking to many guests, but one of them, every guest is the best, and every guest is fascinating in very different ways, but one of them happened to be a retired correctional officer at a prison here in the States. Did you listen to that episode?
No, I must have missed that one. Sorry.
That is no worries. I recorded it several months ago when we didn't know each other, and I wasn't even in this life without sight. Anyway, he was saying how, and you went, and this really goes full circle with what you were saying about, religion, philosophy, life, kind of a cool story, and there's definitely a connection here. Not to worry, listener. I'm not doing one of my tangents, although I think I might have lied, because occasionally on podcasts we get into little tangents. But anyway, this retired correctional officer, and it was and speaking of a disturbing episode to record, that one was, whew, baby. There was some R-rated content there from his experiences working in a prison. I got to tell you, I think it's scarier if you work at a prison than it is if you live at a prison. That's one of the things he said. But the fact is, so he lost his vision. He explained what I don't understand. It's a long story. Basically, he became blind as an adult while he was still working, and he had to retire. Now, he worked a very specific shift at this prison, right? And he told me that, so he says something to the effect of, to paraphrase, shortly after I retired, he said, he was like, I got a message from one of my buddies that still works there and said, oh, guard, I have to come up with other last names, guard Jones, guard, Richards, and guard Baker. One of those guards just got stabbed and is in the hospital now. And then he said he thought back to where all of those guards were working. And he thought back to the part of the prison where that guard was stabbed. And it occurred to him that if he had not lost his vision, he would have been working there that very day, and he would have been stabbed himself for sure. So you see, it's horrible. Luckily, all those guards survived, by the way. The guards that were attacked, they survived.
Oh, great.
Right. So, but here's the point. These are these little blessings in disguises, these little things that God does to kind of move people around. Say, oh, we need to get you out of there. You don't need to be around there right now. So
I have a lot of points on that, if I may.
Sure.
Obviously, okay, I can't see anything. However, it's strange. I mean, and I believe this because I am a Catholic, like I will not find, like if I've lost something, or the dog, when my dog was alive, I have a new puppy now, but where's her toy, whatever, she might have taken it into the room and we never would have found it, but I don't know why. I can walk into that room a million times, but God will always make me step on where the toy is, or something I've lost. He'll guide me to that spot.
Right. Sure. And that's an important part of life, is that I do think everything happens for a reason. This particular man in this other episode, he was basically moved out of that dangerous situation. He was moved out of there, and everybody else survived. So it was sort of a manipulation of the life story, That's how I saw it. And it's really cool. And it's just how life works out sometimes. So, I mean, Jenny, my words of wisdom, if I may, the only thing I can say is that for whatever reason, this is life. And that there are really only two important days. There are only three things that I know to be true in life. The first one is that there are two important days of my life. The day that I was born, the second day in my life is that I have to find out why I was born. And the third important day in my life someday is that eventually I'll die. And of course, pay taxes along the way. But the fact is that, we don't know why all of these things are going on. And I suspect at some level that most of these things, many of these things are out of our control, that there is, I am not terribly religious, but I believe in God, and I believe that certain things do happen in life for a specific reason, to which we have to find the answer. For, of course, if we knew all the answers, then, well, there wouldn't be much point of the life, right? So
rather boring.
That's the point. And the other thing that I'll tell you is just try not to worry. Try to just go about your business, and try to just focus on the now, and just say, well, this is for whatever purpose. This is the purpose. And if you knew what the purpose was, it wouldn't have a purpose. So who knows, really? I mean, right. Yeah, Joe, definitely. And I mean, the other big point that I wanted to make, is it's just try not to be, I mean, I would say, you just have to work towards, positive things. I will tell you that in not life without sight, because everybody is perfect in that group. But there was another group, and I'm not going to say on the podcast what it is, but you're probably in it. One of the other major groups, and someone was incredible, in my opinion, someone was incredibly disrespectful to me in that group, and was just very, very, very insensitive to me on Messenger. Basically the story was I was sharing some information with the person about someone else who was on the podcast, who happens to be from some other country, and they need help, publishing an article, or they need help with something. And the person on Messenger said, well, why don't they just do it themselves? And I didn't respond to that. This lack of compassion, laziness, not getting it, you know. So that really frustrated me. So that person's not getting another message from me, and I'm going to stay away from that group, because that is, I completely agree with you. And the other thing that's very confusing for people, adults who lose their vision, is all of this negativity in the blindness community around the world. I mean, ooh la la, it's just out of control. And Jenny, it's never appropriate, all of these horrible people who say these just crazy things. But I will tell you that you just have to ignore the behavior, and eventually it goes away. And I'll tell you that I think that a lot of blind people around the world right now are just kind of are just not really, are just having a very, very, very hard life, and are just having a very, very, very hard time, coping and functioning in the challenges of today.
Yes. Yeah. I 100% agree. It's just like I touched on before. We're going through enough to have someone put you down. And like I say, if I see a post that I don't like, I just scroll on through. If you engage in that person's
Right.
behavior, it's going to make them keep wanting to do it. And if you just ignore it.
I always ignore, and that's precisely it. Because I'm not going to give you credit. I'm not going to give someone the privilege of being on my podcast if I don't like them. So I only interview people who are successful, who have something to say, and deserve the privilege. And once you understand that point, then it's really easy to ignore, well, most of the population, because most of the population of the world is, quite frankly, in many cases, sometimes worth ignoring some of the time, or in my case, worth ignoring almost 90% of the time. So, I really appreciate you coming out today, really, because I don't take this lightly. I take this very seriously. And the fact that you worked out a time with me, the fact that you came over Zoom all the way here in the land where I am, the land up over, and the fact that you might come on, you've never heard that before. How many other blind people are talking to you about land down under? How many times do you hear that in a day?
That's all I ever hear, the land down under, because that's where I'm from.
Well, that's
I
really
love yours.
And that's really, well, I'm up over. Okay. So the fact is that both of us are in great countries, and the other fact is that a lot of these blind people in these groups are just living tough lives, and I just have to just scroll through most of it. I mean, it really does get old. I'm telling you, I was born blind. I've been blind for 29 years. I'm telling you, it gets old. But I'm telling you also, intellectually, I'm telling you, get used to it, because it's not gonna. This is just how the blind community is. And the other thing is that your average blind person, and I mean, I don't want to use the word average, but you know what I mean. Your everyday blind person who was born blind, who's not a teacher, who's not a podcaster, they don't think about what it must be like to become blind later on in life. They don't think about that. So they don't understand. So that's why, and it's not appropriate, but I'm just saying that's why they're not able to have any compassion for your struggle.
Yeah.
But it really is craziness. But I've traveled all over the world. I've studied abroad in England. I've been to France 3 times because I speak French. Germany, Amsterdam, Austria, Poland, Czech Republic, Swaziland. I volunteered in the Caribbean. For personal reasons, I live in an undisclosed location somewhere in the universe. That's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother episode. But I'm somewhere in the universe. Not to worry, I'm real. But I've never been to the land down under. But it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful place. The best part about your country is all of the wonderful reptiles that are there, because I love snakes. I love skinks. I love all of that stuff. So
all of that stuff you will see in my backyard. You will see
Oh,
a kangaroo in my backyard. You will see a snake in my backyard. You'll see all sorts of creatures in my backyard. That's just
really?
because where we are. Absolutely. Yeah,
Oh, that's so
absolutely.
wonderful. So cool. So cool.
You know,
You
but
know,
I mean,